This video has so many tips that's gonna upgrade your sound design. If you've been searching for great chord sounds, basses, leads, we're gonna be recreating all of that from scratch. And at the end, we're even gonna show you how to transform your stock piano into something amazing. Let's start with Jacob's Chord Synths. Sine, add some higher frequencies. That sounds a bit too much like an organ, so we're gonna remove some highs. Then we're gonna add some vibrato, so drag an LFO to the fine pitch. And here's a few things you wanna tweak with the sound to make the mixing process a lot easier. If you want the sound to be brighter, you don't need to add EQ. Go back to the sliders and increase the top one. If you want the sound to be wider, add a chorus. And if you want the sound to be a bit more expressive, increase the velocity tracking. And this will make it louder when you play hard on the keyboard and quieter when you play soft. Next, let's cover the sound from You and I. This one's a bit more advanced, but I love it because it gives you a lot of freedom to experiment with effects. We're gonna start with a saw, add a filter, and pitch drift. Now, the problem with Vital is that the effects sound a bit crap. Here's a comparison of Vital's delay to what we're gonna be creating. Now the big difference between those two sounds is Vital delay sounds way too clean, too precise. We need something with a bit more character, so we're gonna add some external plugins to achieve that. Delay, you can use any plugin, as the main thing that's gonna make this sound cool is the effects we add afterwards. EQ, this is gonna be one of the most important effects we add to the sound. We're using this to isolate the mids, and we're also gonna add a little boost at the top, and it really enhances the character of the sound. Then we're gonna add some sort of lo-fi plugin. This is what's gonna add that grit to our sound, and to glue both layers together, we're gonna add a chorus and a reverb. Now let's cover the bass from that same song. Jacob usually uses an electric bass in his music, but if you can't play bass, I'm gonna be showing you another way you can access those same sounds at home. Aqua Bass, this is our bass sound pack that works in any genre. Select the sock bass. If you're wondering what the sock bass is, I'll show you. So this sock bass gives us the right tone, but because it's the raw recording, we need to add some processing so it works perfectly in our music. EQ, we're using this to reduce the lows and boost the personality of the sound. Then add some volume automation so the notes are more punchy. This is a bit tricky to dial in. It took me a few attempts to get it right. So to save you some time, I will include this sound in Aqua Bass. Next, we're covering a bass sound from All I Wanna Do. This one's a bit more advanced than the last sound, so if you wanna challenge yourself, here's the sound to do it. For this bass, to make it sound more realistic, we're gonna alternate between two different bass sounds. The first bass is gonna be a bit more of a picking sound, and the second bass is gonna be a bit smoother. For the picking bass, I'm gonna select the gasoline bass from the Aqua Bass, boost the lows, and reduce some of the picking noise because it's a little bit too harsh for this song. Bounce that processing down into another audio file, and you can use it as a new one shot. And for the smoother bass, we're using a different bass sound, and we're gonna boost the mids. Then, to glue these layers together, we need to process them together. I'm gonna be using saturation, but you could also use a compressor. Next, let's make the synth bass on Velvet Light. Start with a square and a saw. To add some extra lows, pitch the square down an octave. And to make it sound more funky, drag envelope 2 to the filter. If you want to make this synth sound even better, I'd recommend using another synth. Whatever plugins or hardware you have, but my recommendation would be some sort of Moog emulation. Next, we're going to create the lead sound from the same song. Saw. That sounds a bit harsh, so we're going to remove some highs. Next, to make the filter get softer as the sound fades out, drag envelope 1 to the filter. For vibrato, drag LFO and random 1 to the pitch. And effects, we're gonna add EQ, chorus, and reverb. To get the most out of the sound, I'd mainly play around with the detune amount, the filter cutoff, and which reverb you're using. And as promised at the start of the video, we're gonna cover a way to make your stock piano sound sick. But before we get to that, if you're still watching this video, it means you're serious about learning sound design. So let me know in the comments what kind of songs should we cover next time. The best suggestions we'll cover in a future video. So at the end of Velvet Light, this piano comes in. How do we create it? Load up a piano, and I know you probably have a go-to one that you used all the time, but I'm just going to use the stock one to show that this method works on any sound. Add the lower octave. And this sound, there's a bit too much noise from the fingers hitting the key, so let's add a high pass filter. And to blend the high note and the low note together, we're going to process them together. Chorus, just going to create like a nice 80s kind of vibe. Then we're going to add some detune with RC20. If you want to download the synth sounds from this video, they're available on my Patreon, and the electric basses are available in our Aqua Bass pack. Subscribe to learn more about sound design.